My name is Brett Miller. When I was a single guy in my mid-20s, bought my first house. It was a very small house. I bought it on a Tuesday. On a Thursday, I got a phone call that my girlfriend was pregnant. Watching that little guy grow in her belly and reading to him even before he was born, that was a pretty cool thing. She called me when her water broke, so I rushed over there in stormy weather, as it usually happens. It was just amazing to see that person come out of her. It was strange and beautiful and miraculous. He was just perfect. Very healthy kid, and he grew up to be very smart and witty and funny. Good-looking kid. He was just my favorite. Memorial Day 2009, it was May 25th that year. I was home working. My ex-wife was up in Duluth visiting her family, and Samson was with my mom and dad and my brother's family. And my dad had an all-terrain utility vehicle, bigger than a four-wheeler but smaller than a Jeep. It has a roll cage and steering wheel and bench seats and seat belts. My nephew, who was 9 at the time, was driving, and my son Samson was 11, and he was sitting in the passenger seat. But somehow the machine got away from Howard, my nephew, and it rolled. And the roll cage landed on Samson's head and severely damaged his skull. I heard a knock on my bedroom door, and it was my neighbor. And she said, there was an accident at the cabin. Your nephew was injured, and he's on his way to the hospital. So I got in the car and made my way up there, praying the whole way that Howard was okay. And I went into like an exam room, and my dad and mom were there, my brother and his wife, and my ex-wife. They all came in close around me. So I sat down, and my mom told me, Brett, Sam's dead. And I just couldn't believe it though, just shock. And left a pool of tears on the floor. I had a lot of clarity in that moment. This is the kind of thing that would tear somebody away from their faith or away from God or be angry at God, that I knew that I was going to need Him to get me through this. As I was praying, Lord, how are we going to get through this? I could feel the Lord's arm around me, just comforting me. And then I saw Jesus standing with His arm around Samson. And Samson looked at me and he said, I'm okay, Dad. And that vision is just going to carry me until I see him again. That's exactly what I needed, to know that he's okay, that he's safe in the arms of his Lord and my Lord. Sometimes I'm in worship and I think, okay, well, what is Samson experiencing right now as he's seeing God face to face in the throne room with all the angels singing? And what does that look like? What does that smell like? What is he experiencing right now? And that just makes my worship so much richer to see it through his eyes in a way. And those are some precious moments. So I was a youth group leader at the Refuge this year. My group was 8th grade boys. This particular day at Refuge, in the large assembly, the video showed a pastor in another part of the country who had lost his child. Ben and Jake had given us instructions of where we were supposed to take it from there in our small group discussion. But I thought, you know what? I think it's time that these guys know that that I even had a son, or have a son. I say present tense because he's more alive now than he ever was. So we broke into the small group setting. I asked if it was okay with him if I kind of broke away from what was normally scheduled to happen, the questions that we were supposed to be asking. And I just told my story about Samson and his life, his death. I wanted them to just kind of get to know me better and know that I had a son, and I kind of look at them as, young men who I have some authority over to teach and to have an influence on. My son was 11 years old, and he's still having an impact on people as I go along and tell this story. Samson's legacy lives on, which is why I don't mind telling this story at all, because that's what we're called to do, is expand God's kingdom in any way that we can. I don't want to waste the pain that I had, because God uses those difficulties, those trials in our life, to bring us closer to Him and to bring others closer to Him.